today we are exploring the Lyndon B. National Historic Park. For those who don't know, LBJ was our 36th president. It's about an hour and a half outside of San Antonio. So this is where he lived. It is still an active ranch, so we're going to learn all about our 36th president. Come along and trip with us.
Welcome to this early Texas farmhouse where the 36th President of the United States was born. It was 1907 when Sam Ely Johnson, the President's father, brought his bride, Rebecca Raines Johnson, across this threshold to their first home. Texas was still close to its frontier. Arrowheads left from Indian camps could still be found along the riverbed, and many old-timers could spin a yarn about the Civil War, and even occasionally the Battle of San Jacinto. Texas was still a young state. By the end of the year, in the United States, 50,000 automobiles had been manufactured, and we were soon to hear that Orville Wright had made his second successful flight of 1 hour and 14 minutes. But none of these events were to equal, in the eyes of the young couple who lived here, their own blessed event, which came on August 27, 1908. In the words of my mother-in-law, that was the day Lyndon B. Johnson discovered America. When Lyndon was 5, the family moved to Johnson City, and most of his boyhood was spent there. The family sold the house in 1923, and it deteriorated through the years and was finally torn down. In 1935, the materials were used to build a smaller house on the site. Many years later, we acquired it and reconstructed this house to the size and look it had in 1907.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome to this little school of my childhood many of my former schoolmates, and my minister assured me that the Lord's Day will not be violated by making into law a measure which will bring mental and moral benefit to millions of our young people. So I've chosen this time and this place for two reasons. First, I do not wish to delay by a single day the program to strengthen this nation's elementary and secondary schools. I devoutly hope that my sense of urgency will be communicated to Secretary Celebrezzi, Commissioner Keppel, and the other educational officers throughout the country who will be responsible for carrying out this program. Second, I felt a very strong desire to go back to the beginnings of my own education, to be reminded and to remind others of that magic time when the world of learning began to open before our eyes. In this one-room schoolhouse, Miss Katie Dedridge taught 8 grades at one and the same time. Come over here, Miss Katie, and sit by me, will you? Let them see you. I started school when I was 4 years old, and they tell me, Miss Kate, that I recited my first lessons while sitting on your lap. From our very beginnings as a nation, we have felt a very fierce commitment to the ideal of education for everyone. It fixed itself into our democratic creed. Over a century and a quarter ago, the President of the Republic of Texas, Mirabor B. Lamar, proclaimed education as the guardian genius of democracy. By passing this bill, we bridge the gap between helplessness and hope for more than 5 million educationally deprived children. We put into the hands of our youth more than 30 million new books, and into many of our schools, their first libraries. We reduced the terrible time lag in bringing new teaching techniques into the nation's classrooms. We strengthened state and local agencies, which bear the burden and the challenge of better education. And we rekindled the revolution of the spirit against the tyranny of ignorance. As a son of a tenant farmer, I know that education is the only valid passport from poverty. As a former teacher, and I hope a future one, I have great expectations of what this law will mean for all of our young people. As President of the United States, I believe deeply no law I have signed or will ever sign means more to the future of America.
Hey everyone, as you can see, I am back home. We had a wonderful time at the Lyndon B. Ranch. I know our video is short, but there was a lot that was under construction or that we missed due to the tours not going on anymore. So for the day, so there was a lot that we could not include. So some of those, as you could see in the video, we did the outside of the childhood home, but the tours for the inside were done for the day. So we missed that tour. So we weren't able to do the inside, and due to the glare, it was really hard to get some good shots from all the windows, either because of the screen or the glare. And another part is on the ranch, there's a bigger home. So you saw the house that he was born at, that you heard Lady Bird Johnson, his wife, describing. That is a clip that is played at that house. It is Lady Bird Johnson herself on the recording explaining the house. So that is the house he was born at. Just a little bit down the ways was his grandpa's house for a while. A little bit further, there was a house that his aunt owned. And she ultimately ended up approaching Lyndon B. Johnson and sold it to him. And so that is where his family grew up, or where him and his wife raised the kids, where they lived. When he became president, they added an office to the end of it, and he did a good amount of his 5.5-year presidency at that house. So they consider it the Texas White House, because during those 5.5 years, he spent almost 500 days working from the ranch, which is a lot for the president. So they call it the Texas White House. They also had his private runway and his private jet that he would use going back and forth from Texas to DC. But during that time, or during this time when we went yesterday, all of that was under construction. So we didn't get to see any of it. So we were missing that part. There is another part near his childhood home that we showed the outside of. There is another part a little bit further down. They call it the Johnson Settlement, and that is the area where his grandparents lived. So yes, they had a house on the ranch when they were older, but when they all lived in town, they had this house and a couple buildings. We missed that as well because the park was closing. Also on the ranch, there's a bunch of nature trails that you could walk around. It was over 100 degrees yesterday with 95% humidity, and a lot of those trails were closed because they weren't shaded. So the park rangers closed them due to the heat index. And one of those trails led to his personal herd of his Texas Longhorn. We wanted to see it. We were totally ready to bear the heat, but the rangers were like, no, we don't want heat exhaustion. We don't want people passing out. So those were all closed. So we do plan on attending and coming back when all those places open. So there will definitely be an LBJ Ranch part 2. In the clip in the schoolhouse with the audio over it, there is a point at the table where I showed the little Junior Ranger packet. And I kind of just briefly flipped through it. I don't know if you caught that. With every national historical site or national park, if it's run by the federal government as a national historical site or park, they have a Junior Ranger program. It is great for kids, and it's little activities to help them understand that specific site. So every site is different, every little packet is different, but it is to help the kids understand that specific area in terms that they would understand. And sometimes it's a scavenger hunt. I know at the visitor center, because there's 2 visitor center, at the visitor center near his childhood home in Johnson City, they have a different packet. Now, when they complete these, depending on the site, they can turn them in to get a little patch or stamp or reward from the park rangers. So definitely something to do if you have kids. Since we don't have kids, we don't really do it. But maybe in future episodes, once we get to a different park, if it includes like a scavenger hunt, maybe we'll do it just to show you guys what it's like. But thanks for tripping with us. Click like, subscribe, and see you on the flip side. Bye.